What's up, everybody? It's a Monday. If you listen to this, maybe Tuesday. Depends on what kind of jump you got on it. And let's just jump right in. I got a couple topics for you. Number one, greatness coming right before your very eyes in the form of someone that you hate. Think about that for a second. Sometimes it happens, you don't even know it. Sometimes it happens and you're rooting against it. I'm gonna give you some examples from my own sports life. I live in New York. Grew up in the '80s. Watched the amazing Mets when I was a Yankee fan and hated them. But that was a heck of a team. Knicks drafted Patrick Ewing, and I watched that team go from being abysmal to being a perennial contender. We had a rap song. We had Anthony Mason. We had Charles Oakley. Patrick Ewing was on the cusp every year, but every year he hit his head into the proverbial wall, that wall being Michael Jordan, a man that we all hated. Hated. You hated him because you knew he was eliminating you. You got up for that game. You got up for that championship. You got up for that conference championship, that playoff matchup. And that guy always seemed to find a way to break the hearts of not just the opposing team, the opposing team's fan base, but find a way to show up in that pivotal game, in that series where you thought you had him that time. You thought you finally had put a team together. Big mistake with Charles Smith. Come on now. But you finally thought you had that team was going to get over the hump. And that was when the lights were brightest and he shut you down and you hated him even more. But there came a time, who knows exactly when it is. Maybe it's after his career is over because your hatred runs that deep, that you learn to respect the greatness that was there year in and year out. Maybe he didn't even want to admit it while the greatness was occurring. Everybody else could admit it because it wasn't happening against your team. And yeah, sometimes there were pieces that made it harder to admire that greatness. Maybe the gambling, maybe the off-field stuff, maybe the smugness. Who the heck knows? But I tell you, Michael Jordan, that was one player that I did not appreciate his greatness until it was too late. Wow, I wish I held on to a lot more of my Michael Jordan cards from when I was a kid, because I had a bunch of them, and they were the first ones that I sold because they sold for a lot of money. It was easier to hang on to Shaquille O'Neal because he wasn't the one who was beating us. He wasn't the one who was knocking us out. Although there was one year that he got to the finals and Jordan wasn't there. But you get it, right? It's that greatness. Sometimes you want to be blind to it. And maybe you don't appreciate it until after the fact. And no, I'm not going to LeBron. No, I'm not going to talk about LeBron. But you guys know I'm a Raider fan. And I hated Tom Brady. Would not buy his cards. I have some deep-seated hatred of Brady because I was actually a New England collector as a kid. You all know from watching, I don't know how many episodes that we have here. I run the risk of upsetting Mike Giuseppe here. I think I've done 115 of these, 1,000, and change or whatever the other episode. We got a lot of episodes here. You guys know I'm a Drew Bledsoe fan and still have my collection. I hated Brady just for taking Drew Bledsoe's job. Hated him for that. And then just compound it. The Raiders were really good when he came into the league. Better than the Patriots. And man, Tuck rule, never looking back. I was collecting cards. 2003, I got back into cards again. It was another one of those boom cycles. And you're like, wow, you got to come back in. 2009, I was, you had Strasburg and, Bryce Harper and a whole bunch of folks coming back in. I would not buy a Tom Brady card. Couldn't stand the guy, didn't want to admit what I was seeing. Didn't want to admit how great he was because I was a fan of a different team. Not to mention, it just didn't look that great as it was occurring, or maybe I didn't let myself see how great it was. You don't appreciate the body of work until it's done. And what's crazy about those two guys is we're seeing two different cycles of those guys. Well, Michael Jordan was playing. His cards were very, very hot. And when he stopped playing, they weren't. Yeah, that sounds a little weird. I mean, he stopped playing in 02. He was coming off of a weird kind of end to his career where he was not the most beloved person. You know, he played with the Wizards. He switched teams. It was an odd thing to watch. And, you know, in 03, people were moving on to the next great king of the game. LeBron came out that year. And while Michael Jordan's cards from that year are immensely coveted now and for the years after and all the stuff, the folks who collect, the folks who were collecting at that time know that while Michael Jordan was always a hotly collected item because there just weren't that many of them, his stuff was not sought the way that it is sought now. So there was a time where he was playing where he was great. He stopped. And then the interest waxed a little, waned a little bit. The interest was one of those things where it was like, okay, he's done. He's not going to win another championship. He's not going to bring the Wizards to prominence. He's not going to go back to the Bulls. And he's not going back to Birmingham and hitting home runs. You're done. You have a closed universe. We're seeing that now with Tom Brady. You know, when Brady was playing, and heck, he snuck out a 7th championship with another team. He did something Jordan wasn't able to do. Jordan didn't win a championship with the Wizards. And then Brady went to Tampa and won a championship. You know, he kind of ended pretty hot. But we're in that immediate phase after where there's no more potential really for Brady to win again. Although I can tell you, you know, if I'm Baltimore, maybe I make a phone call to him. And, you know, if the 49ers lose, maybe I make a phone call to him and say, hey, just come 1 year. We'll just run it back. You at QB, you know, and maybe he wins another one. But we're in that phase now where, you know, Brady's stuff is not as hotly sought after as it was a couple years ago. If you look at the charts, Brady's stuff is down. Brady's stuff is definitely down from where it was. I mean, it's almost unfair because, you know, 2 years ago, everything was crazy high anyway, and he was sort of the poster child for a run. And, you know, the values were really high. But it's interesting to use Jordan and Brady. The interesting thing was that Brady's stuff, you know, while he's playing here, it was elevated while he was playing because people see what the GOAT prices are. People saw Jordan's stuff high. So Brady's stuff can go high. Leads me to the point. Are we seeing this with Mahomes? It's possible. I will not buy Mahomes. And there's a couple reasons. Number one, not because I don't want to learn from the past and have this greatness coming up and me hating it because I'm a Raider fan and I watch the dude play couple times a year and beat up on my team, although we got him this year. No, it's because the hobby is also expecting greatness from Mahomes already. I am in the significant minority with my takes about him being overrated. Let's give him some credit. That's the whole point of the first, you know, half of this episode here. I give him some credit. He went on the road and won 2 big games, right? He has you know, he beat Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, 2, you know, players that have no real playoff success. But underdogs on the road, give him credit. I'm not taking anything away from him. If he goes to the Super Bowl and beats the Niners, which is a heck of a team, came back from some adversity. I mean, again, not the greatest quarterback in the world. Usually these, you know, playoffs come down to the quarterbacks. And, you know, you're riding with Brock Purdy. He's been good. Right? You know, there are some statisticians out there in the hobby who like to put QBRELP, LMNOP up there, and Brock Purdy's pretty high in all the categories that they want to show with a lot of letters. But the Niners are a good team. You know, if that defense shows up, that's a good team. Andy Reid's a heck of a coach. I mean, what a game plan he threw out there against Baltimore. That defense has been a beast, but I guess you just can't play zone defense against Mahomes, Kelsey, they'll just pick you apart. And Pacheco's a heck of a running back. It's fun to watch, and it will be very difficult for me to take away from the greatness if he goes out there and wins a 3rd Super Bowl in 6 years. You know, you're 4 appearances, 3 Super Bowl wins, 6 years, 6 straight AFC championships. It's the stuff of dynasty. The difficult part, and for me to have to put this out there, the difficult part is most of it's already priced into his cards, and that makes it tough. I'm sure you'll see a little bit of an increase if he wins the Super Bowl, just like the last time he won the Super Bowl, and then you'll see it drop off. because multiple wins are priced in there. And it gets harder from here. Kelsey gets a year older. It's harder when you have a $60 million quarterback on your team to field that team. You got to give him some credit because saw it already with Tyreek Hill not there, and they backfilled, man. Rashee Rice had a heck of a year. Their running backs get hurt. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's there, but Pacheco is just, he's been fantastic and well-coached team, and they just kind of next man up mentality, and they've built that defense, a real good defense, which, by the way, Brady had for many years also, so not taking anything away from Mahomes. The tough part is, what are you buying Mahomes for now? And what I noticed is most of the people who are attacking me in my DMs and comments about my Mahomes take are people who got into the hobby in the last couple of years and are either underwater in their Mahomes cards already and hoping for an exit, hoping for another Super Bowl so that they can dump those cards. That was a lot. You can see from people's IG pages when they join and what they own. It takes a little minute. You get that message, boom. You joined in 2021 and bought nothing but Mahomes cards at a significant premium to what they are right now. Okay, well, I understand you are a fan and you're probably underwater, or you're someone who bought Mahomes recently and wants to capitalize on the run-up. A very, very few Victory Investments. There are a few of you guys out there, Mahomes fans, who plan on just holding their Mahomes cards. And what happens with that is exactly what I talked about, right? Mahomes cards may go up if he wins the Super Bowl because there are people out there now running to buy the Prism PSA 10. I got so many messages. The Prism rookie PSA 10 is going up. Okay, well, because that's what everybody runs to. That card, I would venture to say, even if he wins the Super Bowl, it will be less 3 or 4 weeks after the Super Bowl than it is in the week running up to the Super Bowl. That if you're going out and buying that card now, you've learned nothing from 1,100, 1,200 episodes of this show. Now, if you're going out and buying it with an intent to hold it for life because you just want to own a Patrick Mahomes card and you just want to have that on your mantle and you like to have a card of Mahomes, go for it. Buy whatever you like. That's a cool card, right? People know what it is. It's pretty easily identifiable. I would tell you to save some money and buy it in a few weeks. And buy it in the offseason, buy it when baseball season starts up and, nobody's looking at those quarterbacks anymore, even Mahomes. Just look at historically what's happened. Now, I get it. The other side of the equation is that, this will be 3 Super Bowls for him, and that's a different story. It puts him in a different conversation. Sure, it makes him Troy Aikman. Yep. Now, win some more. Sure. And he's got many, many years ahead of him. Dude's 28 years old, I think, right? So could he win a 4th, a 5th? Sure. And, is it possible that the card maintains its value? Sure. Then when he retires, it'll probably go down because he'll be capped and he'll end with 3 Super Bowls or 4 Super Bowls or whatever it might be. So if the goal is long-term, what are you buying it for, to hold and the whole deal? Great. Now, if you're just a collector, probably not paying attention to this anyway because you wanted to buy a Patrick Mahomes card. You probably already have your Patrick Mahomes card. You're not worried about the daily and weekly and monthly fluctuations of that card. It's not really what the hobby is about these days, though. The hobby is about the flippy dippy, the buy here and sell there. I'm setting up at a table and paying 70, 80% of comps so that I can sell it for 90% or 110% of comps. There is money to be made. I won't tell you there isn't. There always is. But it is almost a zero-sum game. Sort of the greater fool theory. But anyway, that's my thought on Mahomes. I did come out with an episode last week saying he was overrated. I also said many, many times during that episode and in all of the comments in my videos that we're going to learn a lot about Mahomes over the coming weeks. I think you learned a lot about him in that game. He had 1 touchdown pass. Don't take it away. That's all he needed. He played mistake-free football against a team that relies on you making mistakes. The other team made mistakes. By the way, that was how Brady won half of his Super Bowls. You wait for the other team to make a mistake and don't make mistakes yourself. That is a part of being great, taking what the other team will give you. So not taking anything away there. He had a good game. I think a lot of my hatred of him, and maybe this is what you need, right? When you have a dynasty, you start to hate him, LeBron and his Heat team, you hated because of the way that they were doing it. You hated that he was going to what was he going to win? 17 championships there. You started to root against him. Michael Jordan, they were so good that the rest of the league, the other fan bases rooted against him and rooted for the other team to win. Mahomes is everywhere, man. And now you got Kelsey everywhere. They're even making fun of it with the Subway ads about, hey, here's the $3 sidekick. The main event is good with a sidekick. I mean, Kelsey's a sidekick. Then he's floating through the air with the Experian credit card, and it's Mahomes and my auto, and it's the most valuable bundler. And they even got, Andy Reid into the mix on the commercials. I mean, I'm not even going to go down the Taylor Swift road, right? I mean, the amount of value in advertising dollars and eyeballs and brand awareness she's added to both the Chiefs and the NFL is astounding. They're thrilled that the script, no, it's not fixed, but the script has Kansas City back in the Super Bowl because that means potentially she's at the Super Bowl. Poor Usher, he'll be doing a halftime show, Usher, and he won't be the musical act that everybody wants to see at that game. It's pretty sad. But anyway, it's gotten to a point where, at least for this one fan of the game, it's too much. And I find myself not really loving the 49ers, but that's the team I'll be pulling for because of it, right? I mean, Brock Purdy, what a great, story, right? Mr. Irrelevant, last player selected in the draft, just, won the NFC Championship game, in a comeback, beating, a quarterback who was taken first in the draft. A pretty interesting story right there in and of itself. Coming back after getting injured, probably would have gotten to the Super Bowl. That was the better team, I believe, in the NFC Championship, but he hurt his arm, and they basically played with no quarterback last year. Now they're back. That team's going to get a little healthier. Debo will get 2 weeks to rest up. He's a beast. They basically don't lose when Debo's there. McCaffrey looks great. Hopefully his neck's all right. It's going to be a heck of a game. And it is another test for Mahomes, and that's the flip side of the equation. You start adding chapters to the book that he's writing, this legacy of greatness. And, Lamar, it's an AFC Championship game, and he won it. And he's been to a bunch of them, and he's won a bunch of them. Take down this 49ers defense after beating the Ravens defense, after beating the Buffalo team, both of those games on the road. This is a Super Bowl that, that if he wins this championship, that is greatness. I mean, it really is. And you'll hear less people using the word overrated, including myself. So that's my Mahomes take on it. It'll be fun to watch the Super Bowl. A little bit of background of, the categories I put him in, kind of my rationale, the way that I think about, a player like Mahomes that is just everywhere. And, sometimes when you're everywhere and you're winning, to the detriment of every other fan base, you start to be hated. And I think being hated sometimes goes hand in hand with being great. All right, last fun little thing here, a 2-minute thing. Be careful buying international products. I did not know that this happened. We're talking about cards. We're talking about buying online. I bought a card on eBay. I bought a card I've since sold, and I thought I was making this huge, great deal. Bought a card from an international seller. No problems at all about the seller. I paid a decent amount for shipping, coming from Asia. Good tracking, great communication, great follow-up. Card looked nice. I ultimately sold it, made a few $100s on the card. Person I sold it to graded it. They told me it got an 8, but I noticed that the same card that I sold them was posted on their page, and it said PSA 9. So, I mean, maybe they bought more than one. It's always possible, right? They probably did buy more than one. But anyway, why I bring this up is they sent it over FedEx, and I got a bill in the mail this weekend from FedEx for $67. It's an international duty. It is. He said duty. It's a tax. It's being levied on the value of the card. I think most of the foreign transactions like this, they're supposed to be paid ahead of time, when you ship the card out, but this one was not paid. And I now have an invoice from FedEx that I got to pay. I'll pay it. Like I said, I bought the card and, you're responsible for it, but it's not something I expected. When you buy on eBay, you pay and you're finished. The card, you're charged shipping, you're charged tax, you're charged fees. I'm charged up the wazoo. The seller was probably charged like crazy, paid, the eBay fee and whatever other fee and paid to ship it and all that stuff. And then now at the end here, some more friction. I got to pay $67, whatever the hell it was, to FedEx after the facts. Just, I guess, be mindful of that. It worked out to, I mean, I don't know, was that like 3% of the value of the card? It was like a $3,000 card. A little less than 3. So like 2,800 or something like that. I'm trying to do the quick math in my brain, but anyway, you get it. I mean, it wasn't a tiny card, but it's also not a nominal amount. Like it's not $7. It's $67. It factors into the money that I made buying the card and then reselling it. So just one of those things I was not expecting and something to look out for. I try to do some research about when it happens, when it's not. And, I guess you can be charged this at any point in time if the person who's selling the card does not pay the fee when they ship it to you. It's something that, U.S. Customs and duty and whatever the heck else, they send you an invoice afterwards as part of FedEx. So got to remember to pay that. I don't want FedEx coming after me and not letting me, take some cards. Also, one little other bonus one. I should just go get it. I should get it. Really cool card came in the mail today. The last remaining Panini redemption that I had. Yeah, the last remaining Panini redemption I had. It was a baseball that Ian pulled, 3 and 2. Kind of like their 1-in-1 product. It was a out of 15 dual auto of Acuna and Soto. Pretty cool card. I was actually putting together a PSA order of like dual, the grading and auto dual. And when this, I noticed this shipped, I was holding the order to put this in. But the Acuna's auto, the sticker, it's off the sticker in like 4 spots. I mean, it's a really cool card. Ian's going to like it. It's a thick card with it's got like a 3D. You can kind of see like a different layer behind it. It's got the 2 pictures, like a really nice card. Comes, encased in the, Panini One Touch. Really nice. We'll keep it. It's something we pulled. It'll stay in his collection, but I'm definitely not getting the auto grade. Could probably be an 8, which that just doesn't look good in this lab with that auto 8 grade. But cool card and happy to get it and happy that Panini is out there, filling redemptions. So to you, Panini, I tip my bleaker trading cap. And that's it, guys. Another fun one. Excited for the Super Bowl. It should be a fun game. And excited that baseball is right around the corner. And, I was not at Culture Collision. Heard some great stories about Culture Collision. I will not be at Burbank. I know a lot of people are excited for that. We get some other fun stuff to talk about during the week. We'll talk to you soon, guys. Thanks for checking out the episode. Let me know what you think. And let me know what you think about Mahomes. Am I right? Am I just being hard on him because I hate him? Is he really everywhere? Do you hate him too? Are you buying his cards? If you are, I would tell you to think again. Take care, everybody.